I thought I lived alone.
For 3 months, my roommate paid rent and never came home. It seemed like the best house share I'd ever had. Finding someone in this city is always a risk. Desperate ads and 10-minute meetings with strangers trying to decide if you can trust them in your home. After my last arrangement ended with my roommate trying to install a home podcast studio in the middle of the living room at 3 a.m., all I wanted was something uncomplicated. Someone who pays their rent on time and basically stays out of my way. Leo seemed perfect for that.
He was a geological consultant and worked overseas constantly. According to the ad, he was sometimes gone for months at a time. He just needed a home address, somewhere to store some belongings, and a place to crash a few times a year for maybe a week or so every few months. What he was willing to pay in rent seemed like a lot, considering he'd barely be here. But he explained that ease was more important than price for him, and he liked my apartment's location. We met once in a coffee shop. He was normal, polite, clean-cut, firm handshake. By the time we finished our coffee, he had transferred 3 months' rent plus the security deposit. He was off to South America the next morning and said he wouldn't be back for 3 months. He moved his stuff in that afternoon when I was out, so I never saw him.
It seemed like the perfect scenario. A roommate who existed mostly on paper. For 2 months, it was. The apartment was silent and calm. It felt like I had the place to myself, only cheaper. Then little things started happening. The first time was subtle enough I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. A framed photo of my sister and I, which I usually kept on a table near the front door, was on the living room bookshelf. I stood there for a long minute trying to remember putting it there. I couldn't recall ever touching it. I was busy, tired, stressed with work, and so it seemed like the obvious explanation that I'd done it subconsciously and forgotten. I put it back and tried not to think about it. A week later, my favorite coffee mug went missing. It wasn't in the cupboards, the sink, or the dishwasher. After about 10 minutes, I found it in the bathroom sink. I tried to remember bringing coffee into the bathroom, drinking it while I brushed my teeth, but no memory came. I again told myself I was being too stressed, too forgetful. But the apartment began to feel different after that. The quiet that had previously been calming was now watchful. The building creaked and settled at night the same way it always had, but each sound seemed more intentional. Then the food started to disappear. Not in large quantities, nothing obvious. A single apple from the bowl, a missing slice of cheese from a new package. The kind of thing you doubt yourself over. I started paying more attention to the fridge contents. The next day, the pull tab on a can of soda was on the counter. I hadn't opened it. It was at that point the true dread began to sink in. Leo's door at the end of the hall remained shut. He had now been gone for almost 3 months. We'd only corresponded via email twice, once for the rent confirmation and once because I asked him how the project was going.
Indefinite. Project extended. Hope all is well. One evening when I came home, I noticed a smell. Faint, but definitely there. Earthy, metallic, slightly damp. It was wrong. The smell seemed to come from Leo's room. I sniffed closer to his door. Was something forgotten inside? Spilled when he left? But it didn't smell like any specific thing I could think of. That night, I woke up to a soft scraping sound from the hall. I sat bolt upright, straining to hear. I watched the crack of light under my door, expecting a shadow to pass. No shadow came. I eventually decided it was just the old building shifting. The next morning, I found the footprint. It was on the kitchen tile, just a few feet from Leo's door. A muddy imprint from the front of a boot, with dark soil clinging to it. My blood went cold. The smell, the food, the mug, the footprint. Someone had been inside my apartment. I considered calling the police, but what would I say? A moved mug? Some dirt on the floor? I knew what the response would be. For the next week, I jumped at every sound.
I put a chair against my bedroom door at night. I couldn't tell which thought was more frightening, that I wasn't alone in the apartment, or that I was actually losing my mind. But then last Tuesday night, I came home and noticed Leo's door was ajar. It hadn't been opened in months. I just stood at the entrance, paralyzed. Leo? No answer. Leo, are you home? Nothing. My hands were trembling as I made my way down the hallway. I pushed the door open further and felt for the light switch. The room was completely empty. There was no bed, no dresser, no boxes or possessions. Nothing. It was as if no one had ever lived in the room at all.
The only thing I could see in the room was a Polaroid photograph taped at eye level on the opposite wall. I walked across and peeled it from the wall. It was me, sleeping in my own bed, taken from the foot of the mattress. My face looked ghostly and blank from the flash. The chair was visible, jammed against the handle of my bedroom door in the background of the photograph.
It was dated on the back from the night before. My stomach clenched and I stumbled backward, my heel catching on something on the floor behind the door. A canvas duffel bag. Inside, tangled and muddy, with thorns clinging to them, were my clothes. And photos, dozens of them, of me cooking, sitting on the couch, watching TV, standing by the sink. In the side pocket of the duffel bag, a small plastic bag contained chunks of my hair and nail clippings. I ran. I left my apartment without any of my belongings, calling the police from the nearest gas station 2 miles away. When the police searched the apartment, they found nothing. Leo's room was empty and clean of all evidence. There was no duffel bag, no photographs, and no scent of him lingering in the room. The landlord stated that Leo had paid his rent and didn't seem to know anything about him. Leo's cell number was disconnected, the only record of his presence being a driver's license linked to a P.O. box.
I moved cities 2 days ago. I can't say where I am. I have 3 locks on my front door, and each night I wake up with the distinct feeling that someone is standing at my doorway, watching. I thought I had found the perfect roommate, someone who was never there. The truth is, he was always there.
I saw something at a park as a kid, and I still can't explain it. My mom was there. I've gone back and forth about posting this because I know how it sounds, but this has stuck with me for years. This happened sometime between 2008 and 2012. I was probably 8 to 12. It was a normal suburban park. Baseball field, wooded trail, some construction going on. There was a circular cement tank near the path. It was cloudy, middle of the day. Nothing unusual about the atmosphere. I was there with my mom. 2 older women were walking ahead of us and passed the cement structure first, like everything was completely normal. When we reached that same spot, I randomly turned my head to the right. Something was hovering a few inches above the cement tank. It was sitting cross-legged, blue skin, but not flat blue. It looked layered, almost like something faint was moving under the surface. I remember blinking because my brain didn't process it right away. I remember seeing 4 arms, yellow eyes with narrow pupils. It was already looking directly at me. It had something like a gold and blue cloak on, but the patterns wouldn't stay still. Every time I tried to focus on a specific part of it, it shifted slightly. Not dramatically, just enough to throw me off. The second our eyes locked, everything changed. The sound in the park dulled, like someone turned the volume down on the world. My ears started ringing. My body felt heavy. I remember thinking I should step back, but I didn't move. The strangest part is, I wasn't scared. I heard my mom saying my name, but it sounded far away, even though she was right next to me. She said it again, and it sounded closer. Then everything snapped back all at once. She grabbed my arm and pulled me forward, and we moved quickly down the trail. I looked back once. It was still hovering there, watching. It didn't look aggressive. It didn't look friendly. Just calm. I didn't really talk about it for years. In 2021, I brought it up randomly, and my mom remembered it too. She said she had pushed it out of her mind because it shook her.
I've never experienced anything like that again. Mostly wondering if anyone else has had something similar happen, especially the muffled sound and time distortion part.
I don't really believe in ghosts, but I can't explain this. I work as an apartment maintenance man. One of our tenants would constantly complain about hearing banging on his walls at night. The lady that was actually in the other room always denied that it was her. Since there was no proof, we couldn't really do anything about it. That and the person that made the claim was known to not be completely mentally well. This specific apartment complex was exclusive to the elderly and mentally ill, so that wasn't uncommon. Eventually, the lady that was living next door moved out, and it's my job to get the place cleaned up. Most days that I went in there, everything was normal. On one of the days where I was finishing up, though, something happened, and I still can't come up with a logical explanation for it.
On that day, when I went into the room, I felt a shiver go down my spine. It wasn't really colder in the room, but my body still felt cold the moment I walked in. It was like there was this pressure on me the whole time. I worked through the day like that, expecting it to eventually go away, but it never really did. Now, if that had been all that happened to me, I would have chalked it up to me just not feeling that great that day. Stuff similar to this has happened before. It wasn't till the end of the day that something truly strange happened. To better explain this, you need to know the layout of the rooms. The front door to the room that leads out to the hall has about an inch gap on the bottom, enough to where I could fit my hand mostly under it if need be, just not the whole way. The windows to the room is also on the north side of the building that sun rarely gets to. There's usually a big shadow on that side of the building because of it. So anyway, I was moving my tools and stuff out of the apartment. When I had got a few steps out of the place, I felt an urge to look back. I don't know why I felt this urge, but I did. When I looked back though, I froze. Under the door, I could see the shadow of what looked like 2 feet standing in front of the door. You'd only see that shadow if someone were within a few feet of the door. Obviously, no one was in there. I had been working in there the whole day. I tried to rationalize that there must be something either in the room or outside that was reflecting into the room like that. That is, until I saw the legs start moving as if they were walking away. I'm happy to say that I didn't do what most people would. I briskly walked away. I eventually went back later, not to check the room, but to check the outside area. I thought someone must have walked by the window outside, and that's what I saw. But remember how I explained the layout of the building? Someone's shadow couldn't have reflected inside. The sun was high up in the sky at that time, and the shadow was still very prevalent because of the overhanging roof. The sun wouldn't have been behind whoever would have been there, so it couldn't be that. The only explanation I can come up with is someone was shining a light and it somehow ended up looking like that. Other than that, I can't rationalize it. I really don't know what I saw. To answer a few questions you people might have, yes, lots of people have died in this building before. It comes with the fact that 80% of the people here are elderly. As far as that room specifically, I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone has died in there. And no, the guy who initially made the complaint hasn't made one since. Who knows, maybe the ghost was an ableist and didn't like the lady that was living there. She lost her legs, so she was always in a wheelchair. Makes it almost ironic that the legs are what I saw.
Haunted Airbnb?
A few years ago, my now ex and I went to a nice little Airbnb around Christmas. The place was near the small town of Sequim in western Washington state, very quiet and rural. There was snow on the ground, and it was slowly snowing some more, which we enjoyed because it rarely snows where we live. We spent our time drinking Kahlua milkshakes and watching movies, going to a few touristy places and having a peaceful mini vacation. At night, it was very dark and silent outside, with only the sound of a deer crunching in the snow as it walked across the front yard. I had a little trouble getting to sleep because I kept hearing odd sounds from the direction of the small closet in the master bedroom. This place was a small mobile home, and given the nearness of wildlife, I assumed the noise was probably a couple of squirrels or something trying to find a little warmth under the house. Eventually, I fell asleep. I heard the rustling continue off and on during the night, as I'm a light sleeper, and the bed wasn't as comfortable as the one I was used to. But I managed to get to sleep sometime near dawn. Then I was suddenly awakened with the feeling that someone was trying to strangle me. I felt a sudden and firm pressure on the front of my throat and started to cough. Within seconds, the pressure was gone. I yelled at my ex because I thought his arm had somehow fallen across my throat. It didn't make sense, but it's all I could think of at the time. He turned around and said, "Huh?" At that moment, I knew it couldn't have been him because he had been sleeping with his back to me.
Later that morning, when he was in the other room, I talked to whoever was in the closet and told it to leave me the fuck alone. I heard a bit more rustling the next night, but whatever it was didn't bother me again. I was shocked by the momentary feeling of being strangled, but I've had so many experiences with these kinds of spirits that I tend to take it all in stride whenever possible. It's amazing what you can get used to. Doesn't mean that I like it, but this was a pretty small incident, and nothing seemed to follow me after we left, so it's just another of many spooky experiences I've had.